told you there was a way to fund your dream game without a publisher, and you don't need to have ever made a game before. And it's not Kickstarter, not doing contract work or anything like that. You can really have never done anything game development related, have zero marketing or business knowledge, and apply these tips I'm about to teach you. If you're a beginner and you've ever asked a game developer what you should do to make your dream game, you might have been told, cut your losses, make small ones until you're ready to make the big one. But it makes sense, right? The more you do something, the better you get at it, and making something big is a bit unfeasible. But not working on your dream game can feel really lame. Most people get into game development to do something that they're very passionate about, and being told to make Flappy Bird clone number 3,000,004,004,004 doesn't really help anyone feel on fire about what they're doing. So I've made a list of 5 very actionable things that if you follow perfectly, you'll be well on your way to make your dream game while having the money to make it. And so the first thing you're going to do is take the genre of your dream game, and in my case, I'll use the example of a game that is like Pokemon Cross Zelda, so use your Pokemon to solve puzzles instead of using Zelda-like items. And after you get your genre, you have to strip it into parts. So again, for my example, the game will have an action combat system, a way to select your monsters or swap between them, 2D and 3D pixel graphics, kind of like Octopath Traveler, an interconnected world map, and finally a dialogue system. So do this for your own game as well, and you should have a list of the top 5 to 10 most important aspects of it. And you know what you do next? It's going to sound kind of counterintuitive, especially given what I said near the start of the video, but what you're going to do is you're going to make a game entirely based around one of these points. And I know it sounds like I'm just giving the same old advice of making a small game, but it's not, and that's because of one key difference. You're going to sell this game. No excuses, no matter how bad this comes out, you're going to sell it, preferably on Steam, but anywhere else works in reality. But nowadays, selling on Steam is pretty simple. You just have to pay $100 to get in, and by virtue of being on Steam, you usually make the money back, even if it's your first game. And the visibility that Steam provides is definitely worth the $100 that you pay, even if you have very primitive marketing experience. So the reason you sell your game is not only to make money off of it to put back into your big dream game, it's also because you will feel more pressured to make something as presentable as you possibly can, which will level up your game development skills much faster. Also, this is incredibly important. If you don't do the following, this whole method won't work. Give yourself an unchangeable deadline. Give yourself a month, maybe 2, maybe 3, but I would not give myself more than that. What you're doing here is you're making a piece of your dream game, not your dream game itself. If you see it like that, it should be much easier to make sure that you don't keep on adding things and make the game way bigger than it should be. So what should you do after you finish that first game that's one part of your dream game? Well, you make all the other parts, but again, it's very important that all of these are independent. Don't take on multiple points at once. I'm going to give you an example based on that Zelda X Pokemon-like game. You might be inclined to choose the action combat system to start off with, but no, you shouldn't do that because then you have to make a lot more in one go. Instead, I suggest that you start off with the 2D and 3D pixel art graphics. So what you can do is try to take some of the copyright-free assets that you can find online and try to make a cool scene with the art style. Then you can create a character controller, make it move around, and you've kind of already made a walking simulator already. So make a bunch of environments, add some environmental storytelling, have a sequence of areas, and that's it. You've made a top-down walking simulator. So what's next? Well, you can go about it in a few different ways. You can start the action combat system and use your character controller as the base. Or maybe you pick the dialogue system and make a sort of comedy walking sim with funny dialogue. Or maybe you take the walking sim idea to the max and you make the interconnected world map. The point is, there are tons of options, but you should choose the one that allows you to reuse the most from your previous game. Never make anything from scratch if possible. What you're trying to do is build a library in your head and also in your computer. And you might think that the computer library is the most important, but knowing what systems to make in terms of being a game designer is by far the #1 priority. Figuring stuff out is the hardest part of being a game developer, and in staggering the process with this method, you're making it much easier on yourself and you can take advantage of what you've already figured out to the max. So if you successfully replicate this method, not only will you have released many games, all of which will have made you money to fund your dream game, you'll also have a full library of code that you can reuse, and your brain will be full of design concepts that you have learned by overcoming the problems you faced in the smaller parts. And so I'm actually applying this myself and have one of these parts releasing in Steam in 2 weeks. It's basically an action roguelike that I'm using to figure out the upgrade system and some complex action systems of my Pokemon Cross Zelda game. So that example that I gave wasn't theoretical at all, it's exactly what I'm doing. And the best part is, I learned a lot in making it and it only took me 2 weeks, and all the earnings are gonna go towards making one of my dream games a reality. So if you like the look of it, there's a demo available below in the Steam page, and if you like it, give it a wish list. It'll let you know when the game comes out, and it helps me so much. So good luck in making your dream game. I'm sure you can do it.